Welcome to Family Law Talk, presented by Kirk Stange of Stange Law Firm, PC. Stange Law Firm is a family law firm in the St. Louis metro area, with offices in Missouri and Illinois. Now, here's your host, Kirk Stange.
Welcome to Family Law Talk. This is Kirk Stange, a managing partner of Stange Law Firm, PC. Today's topic is an interesting one on Family Law Talk. The topic is legal custody versus physical custody. This is a common question that lots of folks have in going through divorce or child custody cases, so we're going to try to break this down for the listeners today. I'm going to state before we get into the topic, as I always do, that the choice of a lawyer is an important decision that should not be based solely upon advertisements, and that the information you obtain today in this episode is general in nature, and it may not apply to specific factual or legal circumstance. Therefore, if you need legal advice, you should definitely consult an attorney who is competent and licensed to practice law in your jurisdiction. All right, again, the topic is legal versus physical custody. This is based on a blog entry on our blog, stcharlesdivorceattorneysblog.com, dated July 30th, 2014. And the title of the blog entry is, What is the Difference Between Legal and Physical Custody? So as a follow-up to the episode today, definitely go and read the article. If you're at blogtalkradio.com, you can also check the hyperlink below the episode, and it'll take you directly to the article as well, and you can read up on it and follow up from it from there. Definitely an interesting topic, and so let's get into it. A lot of folks going through divorce or child custody case, they talk about custody, and lots of folks will come in and just kind of throw various terms out. For example, people will say, we want joint custody, or we want sole custody. And then, as an attorney, it happens at our firm all the time, and I'm sure it happens at other firms as well. But when we start asking potential clients or clients in terms of legal and physical custody, how would they want it to break down? That's where a lot of folks, candidly, especially if they've never been through a family law case before, they have no idea what the difference is between legal and physical custody, and it's kind of a new revelation to them. It's sort of confusing, abstract, and a lot of folks are just kind of lost once those terms are thrown out. So let's talk about it. Legal custody, quite frankly, is decision-making involving kids. So, lots of folks, have to make very important decisions involving the lives of their kids. Could be decisions related to medical matters, could be school matters, could be extracurricular activities. For example, and parents in any kind of a married relationship, obviously parents have to talk about these types of issues. Oftentimes parents might have the same viewpoint. They might agree, but in lots of homes, the truth of the matter is probably lots of folks agree on certain things, and there's other areas which maybe the mom and the dad don't particularly agree on, and that requires parents to have candid discussions with one another and discuss these matters and make decisions on behalf of the best interest for their kids. Obviously, when a mom and dad are going through a divorce or are divorced, or in circumstances where maybe the parents were never married and they're both involved in the lives of their kids, obviously making these decisions can become even more tough, because now you've got the added dimension of the fact that the mom and the dad aren't together, and they might just have different viewpoints than each other. They might look at the world perhaps differently on certain issues, and so the difference on legal custody is if two parties, a mom and a dad, if they share legal custody, so if it's called joint legal custody, it means the mom and the dad have to agree on decisions affecting the child. So if you're talking about a health care decision, an education decision, could be something involving extracurricular activities, or just the welfare of the kids in general. What's supposed to happen with joint legal custody is the mom and the dad are supposed to confer with one another. They're supposed to discuss the pros and cons, and then ultimately they're supposed to agree on decisions. And so think of it this way. If it's joint legal custody, it means one parent, in essence, has veto power, so that one parent can say, nope, I don't agree with that decision, and if they don't agree with it, then at the end of the day, it in essence gets held up, absent some sort of compromise or some type of agreement between the mom and the dad. So that is joint legal custody. It means the parents have to agree They're both active decision makers, and in essence, both parents have veto power over one another. And of course, the fact that both parents have veto power, that creates an interesting dilemma, which is what do you do in circumstances where the mom and dad don't agree? It's a big decision, and it causes the mom and dad to kind of come to a head and take a situation where both parents have, in essence, kind of dug in their heels and they're not willing to compromise with each other in terms of the specific decision. Then what happens? Well, and it's going to be different from state to state, and it's going to be different in some respects based on the custody order entered in a particular case. But common clauses that we see here in Missouri in parenting plans state that if the parties can't agree, then what they're supposed to do is go to mediation, discuss a matter with the mediator, and the hope would be that after mediation, the parties would be able to enter some kind of agreement. Of course, mediation in most circumstances costs the folks some money, so if a mom and dad have to go sit down with a mediator to try to resolve the dispute, that's going to cost some money in fees to do that. And of course, mediation is different than arbitration, for example, where mediation, the mediator really can't make the parties do anything. So it's also possible in certain circumstances that a mom and a dad could sit down in mediation. They could both state their viewpoint and theoretically have a vigorous debate on why they don't agree with one another on a particular topic. The mediator could then do their very best to try to help the mom and dad come to some kind of compromise, perhaps, or some sort of resolution. But it's definitely the case that some circumstances parties walk out of mediation and they still don't agree. And so, just like in a political sphere, if you had a 50-50 Senate, and 50 vote one way and 50 vote another way, I mean, you've got gridlock theoretically. And so, in certain circumstances, and I'd say certain rare circumstances, disagreement becomes such a big deal, such a big frequent issue that, court has to relook at the situation and sometimes think about awarding sole custody to one parent or the other. But I can tell you, Missouri, as a general rule, we see the vast majority of the cases being joint legal. And in essence, that makes the parties try to work together with regard to decisions. And of course, this is specifically referencing cases where both parents are basically good parents. They've been involved in the lives of their kids. They've made good decisions in their own life. As a whole, obviously, nobody's perfect, but we just see the vast majority of the cases being joint legal custody. Obviously, cases where the parents disagree so much that it becomes such a frequent issue, that could result in sole custody. But again, we're talking really rare cases. And then obviously you get into certain circumstances where maybe a parent is making bad decisions in their own life. And so if they're making bad decisions in their own life, it might be hard for a court to envision that parent making a good decision for their kids. So that is legal custody. It's the decision making. It's the ability to make decisions involving a child's health, education, and welfare in essence. And so that's legal. Now, physical custody is what I think most folks are thinking about when they take that term child custody and kind of heave it out there. Child custody means, in essence, where does a child live? Do they live with mom? Do they live with dad? Do they live with both parents? Is the time roughly equal, or does the child spend substantially more time with one parent versus the other parent? Obviously, the laws in each state can vary on this topic, and so again, to the listeners, obviously you want to consult an attorney who's licensed and competent to practice law in your state regarding your very specific circumstance, because there can be some variance out there. But in Missouri, where I spend the bulk of my practice, what we see is that in Missouri, if each parent has significant time, which is the way the law is sort of developed in terms of case law in Missouri and the statute, then in Missouri we call that joint physical custody. So both parents having significant time is joint physical custody. And, of course, a court's got to pick one home to be the residential parent for school and mailing purposes. So the parent whose home is the residential parent for school and mailing purposes, that's the school where the child would attend public school if the kid goes to public school. And then in terms of mailings from the school being made, they would go to the home in which is the residential parent for the child. So again, both parents significant time, joint physical custody. Now, in certain circumstances, a parent might have way more time than the other parent. and the parent who's a non-custodial parent might really not have frequent, meaningful contact. I mean, in other words, the visitation might be minimal. It might be substantially less than the other parent. And in those cases, the court may call the situation sole custody to the parent who has the vast majority of the time. So sole custody, sole physical custody, in other words, and then visitation rights to the other parent. So again, joint physical custody means significant time to both parents. It doesn't have to be 50-50. In fact, the way case law has moved in Missouri, it can be quite a bit less than 50-50 and still be called joint custody. But in cases where one parent really just doesn't have a whole lot of time at all, then those are the cases where you see it being called sole physical custody to the parent who has a child the vast majority of the time. So again, really important to break these concepts up, divide them up. Legal custody different from the physical custody. And obviously, when you get into physical custody too, we could go into a lot more detail, but physical custody gets really, really detailed in terms of the specific schedule. So past the terms, joint physical custody or sole physical custody, what becomes critically important as well is the time schedule. So in other words, what days of the week do the kids spend with one parent versus the other? What time are the exchanges? Where do the exchanges take place? How do the holidays work? How does summer vacation work? So obviously getting past the term joint or sole physical custody, what's critically important as well is that specific schedule, which in Missouri becomes part of what we call a parenting plan. And so obviously any parent going through either a divorce or a custody case, that parenting plan becomes really critical. And it's very important to have a plan that doesn't have ambiguities, that both the parties understand. And, of course, parties in a divorce or custody case can deviate from that parenting plan by agreement if they so desire. However, if there's no agreement, then that parenting plan is what carries the day. So really, really important for any parent who wants to be an active participant in the lives of their kids to have a good, solid parenting plan as well that sets forth all the specifics in terms of custody. So, again, common question, what's the difference between legal and physical custody? Hopefully we address this issue for you today. For more information, again, go to our blog, stcharlesdivorceattorneysblog.com. Read the article from July 30th, 2014. Of course, we got more information on our main web page, which is stangelawfirm.com. So thanks for the listeners for tuning in to Family Law Talk with Stange Law Firm today. Stay tuned for our next exciting episode coming up. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Family Law Talk with Kirk Stange. Visit StangeLawFirm.com for more about today's topic, or to put Stange Law Firm to work for your family today.
Treat your party host with a Hy-Vee party tray. From meat, cheese, and charcuterie boards to shrimp and seafood trays and everything in between, Hy-Vee has the perfect signature platter to make your event extra special. And make sure to check out the chicken wing trays if you want a real crowd pleaser. Shop in-store or online at hi-v.com. That's hi-v.com.
The holidays start here at Baker's with a variety of options to celebrate traditions old and new. You could do a classic herb-roasted turkey or spice it up and make turkey tacos. Serve up a go-to shrimp cocktail or use Simple Truth wild-caught shrimp for your first Cajun risotto. Make creamy mac and cheese or a spinach artichoke fondue from our selection of Murray's cheese. No matter how you shop, Baker's has all the freshest ingredients to embrace all your holiday traditions. Baker's, fresh for everyone.